So in our usual style, we've scheduled the meeting for an hour, and today really looking at bringing you some sort of short, sharp presentations around deployment, product deployment. So we're expecting 2 speakers with us this morning. So so the first is ThinkSono, which you will have seen from the agenda, and then we've also got an update on the remote monitoring of wounds, and we have Swansea Bay Health Board joining us to deliver that. Now, as far as I can see, our first speaker of the day hasn't joined us just yet, Rebecca. So I'm looking at Rebecca there, I can see you shaking your head. So why don't we start with our second presentation, if that's okay, because I see that that Catherine is with us. And also recognising that we've got a couple of new names on the attendee list today. So so welcome to those of you that will be joining the AI Special Group for the first time. And really this is our opportunity to reach out right across the ecosystem, to just spend some time on a regular basis exploring our own projects and being able to interact with each other, but also getting a better understanding of the kinds of technologies that are available, and also exploring where products and services are actually being deployed. And the agenda today, I think, gives us a great insight into both product and deployment. So if you're happy, I will hand over to Rebecca and Catherine and tell us all about wounds. Thank you, guys.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Carrie-Anne. Just to introduce myself briefly, my name's Rebecca Haves. I'm a project lead here at the Life Sciences Hub Wales, and we thought this was a really good opportunity at the AI SIG meeting to actually bring a project that's live currently in Wales, that's come about through a collaboration between Welsh Government, the Life Sciences Hub Wales and Swansea Bay Health Board. So way back at the start of COVID, Welsh Government announced the Digital Solutions Fund, which was an open call at that point in time to industry to step forward with any solutions they thought might be of interest to the Welsh NHS. And one of the projects that was successfully chosen was a company called Healthy.io, who had a product even that looks at digital wound scanning. And they were successfully chosen as one of the pilot companies to be worked with. And then the Life Sciences Hub Wales then set about looking at a project partner for them to partner with. And Catherine, who's joining us on the call this morning, foolishly reached out via Twitter, believe it or not. So this project came about via the power of social media. And through that process, Swansea Bay came on board specifically with district nursing, and we've been able to partner them up with Healthy.io. And the pilot is currently ongoing, and Catherine's going to be able to take us through what they've learned so far, the challenges of adoption of new digital technology in district nursing. And then at the end of it, I'm going to speak a little bit more about where we see this project moving to next in terms of national context. But before I introduce Catherine, I have to say that it's been a pleasure working with Swansea Bay Health Board on this project and the district nursing team. For a team that, and Catherine will probably explain this in her presentation, were quite far away from digital transformation. They've made a huge leap in the past 5 months to where they're at now and where they're looking to for the future. So if I hand you over to Catherine.
Thank you, Rebecca. Yes, so I'm Catherine Card, and I'm the interim transformational lead for district nursing in Swansea Bay. I'm just going to share my screen, if that's okay. There we go. Are you able to see that?
Yes, thanks.
Yes, thanks.
Yeah, fab, thank you. So as Rebecca said, I don't think we could have been any further away from digital in district nursing in Swansea Bay, because as this slide shows here. We use paper notes, which are kept at the patient's home. In regards to wounds, then we use paper tape measures to measure the wound, but this can bring about inconsistent and inaccurate measurements. Everything is at the discretion of the nurse that's visiting, and we had sort of, it wasn't uncommon to have incomplete records in regards to wounds. So this next slide here is our wound chart that we would use. So when we'd measured with our paper tape measure, we would be documenting the size of the wound, the dimensions, whether the wound bed was sort of necrotic or sloughy or granulating, how the surrounding skin was looking, the exudate levels, and the paint score. So as I said, there were inconsistencies in that sometimes this was documented, sometimes it wasn't. And I suppose just highlighting this to show you the variation between our paper documentation and the wound app. So the Healthy IO Minuteful for Wound app adapts smartphones and iPad technology using artificial intelligence in the assessment and management of wounds and pressure ulcers using a digital app. So within district nursing, we had iPads. Every district nurse had an iPad rolled out to them. I think we've sort of had them for 3 years now, and the use was quite minimal in the beginning. It was used in emails, and if we wanted to send a photograph, let's say to our tissue viability nurses, that would have to sit within an email. So we had the technology there, but we just weren't using it as we could have. So this app now allows clinicians to accurately and automatically measure and document wounds, securing data and images in a dedicated portal, which enables review of the wounds or ulcers over time and improving evidence-based decisions and our clinical care for the patients. So I'm just going to show you next. So the picture here on the right hand side, that is as the app would show us a wound. Obviously the wound isn't evident there, but it's just to show you the dimensions of how that would look and the tissue distribution. This is all the information that we would have had or hopefully would have had on our wound chart. But then, as I say, this is all now within the app. The app is made up of 3 parts, really. We've got the scan, which captures a complete and consistent and comprehensive 3D wound scan using your smart device and two color stickers. So the stickers are placed either side of the wound, and a 3-second scan is taken with the iPad in an arc motion to capture the image. Then the staff then have to complete the assessment, which would be what we would be documenting within the care plans in our notes, but this is now also within the app. So it supports better care decisions with more accurate and standardised wound assessment, including measurements, location, tissue distribution and pain level. And then finally, the other part we've got is the portal, which is the monitoring part. So this allows us to track healing over time from a centralised portal to improve outcomes, see historical wound data and patient information, receive analytical reports and alerts for stagnating wounds. So that's really important to us because this is information we wouldn't have been able to easily acquire previously. The next slide there just shows the stickers placed from either side of the wound, the scan with a device. So it can be an iPad or an iPhone. There are benefits to both, really. We've only got iPads currently, although one of our champion users is trialing an iPhone because we have found that in dark homes, it's very difficult to capture the image if we haven't got that light, and the iPads don't have a flash. So she's trialing the iPhone to see if that's a better option. And then there's the potential maybe that our digital services within Swansea Bay have timely been asking us about our devices and what we would prefer. So maybe a larger iPhone might be our better option. But as I say, we're trialing that now. And then we've got the portal, which can be accessed via the iPad through the internet, or it can be accessed via PCs back at the office. One of the main benefits we've got there is that our specialist tissue viability nurses are able to access the wounds. So I suppose that's one of the biggest benefits in that the team leaders and the tissue viability nurses are able to access it at point of being asked. So let's say a nurse has gone to one of the patients in the home, they're concerned, they can, whereas previously they would refer to the tissue viability nurse via our single point of access, they would then have to accept the referral, arrange an appointment, travel out, review the wound, update the care plans. Now we can refer to the tissue viability nurse via a single point, and they can access the portal straight away, review the wound. They may need to go out. You know, we're not saying that they'd never have to go out, but they may need to go out. But generally they can offer advice, and we've had a box put in the assessment, which is tissue viability comments. So the next person that goes into that patient then will see the recommendations from the tissue viability nurse straight away and was able to adapt that care plan to improve the patient's care. So the next part here is the pilot within Swansea Bay. So we started our pilot in December 2021, and it was a 6-month pilot from Healthy IO with support from yourselves. We've started within district nursing with 5 teams. And at month 4, then we added in 2 community wound clinics, and that was because we felt we would be able to get more data because they just deal with patients with wounds. So currently we've got 66 active clinicians. Then I've looked at the information from last week. We took our record-breaking 141 scans last week, and the app highlighted that there were 32 stagnating wounds last week, which again, like I've previously said, we wouldn't be able to identify that number with our paper notes unless somebody actually physically looked back through all the notes, all the wound care charts to see how long this person had the wound, how long the dimensions hadn't changed. You know, this is massive groundbreaking for us. So we have within this pilot now, we also have a weekly champions meeting, which Rebecca attends and supports us, which is fantastic. And recently, Healthy IO have provided us with a dashboard. But this is this is ongoing development for us. We're not actually using it as yet. We need to meet with them to tweak it to decide what we need. But first instincts are that this is going to provide us with data, like I said, that we've never had before. It breaks down the wounds into stagnating, deteriorating, healing, and then we can click on the number of wounds there, and it actually takes you to the patients that have these wounds. So, it's outstanding. So benefits to us to reduce administrative burden within the services. The data can be recorded and reviewed immediately, like I said, to create a consistent approach to clinical assessments and management of wounds, to improve treatment outcomes for patients. Obviously, with reducing healing times, we're on the case with these wounds now. We're able to any deterioration or any stagnating wounds, we can change that care plan basically straight away. To improve the visibility of wound and pressure sore assessment across the health board, leading to improvements in clinical governance, handover of care, and to reduce length of treatment and follow-up visits, and cost efficiency by improving the time spent on the caseload with appropriate use of dressings and number of visits required. Final slide here is our hopes for the future. So going forward, we've acquired a project manager. As Rebecca will tell you, we did this the wrong way round, or maybe the right way round, whichever way you look at it. We did a bottom-up approach. So we as nurses have been managing this. So within our health board now, we've managed to acquire a project manager to help us to manage data, etc. We've secured funding to extend the pilot by 10,000 scans, which if we go with the numbers of scans we are currently doing, that should take us to March 23. However, there was a meeting last week, which I wasn't able to attend, but I hear, Rebecca, that Healthy IO have authorised that there will be no restriction on the number of scans, which is fantastic. So we're going to extend the pilot to include all district nursing teams and all community wound clinic services. And we've got a meeting penciled in for this week to see if there are any other services who would benefit, any other services which share our patients, which would benefit us. It does benefit us with the wound clinic because sometimes patients are handed over on a weekend because there's no wound clinic on a weekend. So our district nurses would pick those up. They can, log onto the portal, they can see the care that's happened that week, or how the wound has been looking, and continue that. So we're sharing the information, we're sharing the care, which is something we haven't been able to do in the past. Presentation, thank you very much.
Thank you, Catherine. Catherine's very modest in this presentation when she says she hasn't had a project manager. Very much this project has been led by a district nursing team. Although all the steps were taken in terms of approvals internally from finance and data protection and all the other digital sign-offs that went through it, Catherine and her team have very much taken this project and run with it. And it's becoming a bit of a beast, isn't it, Catherine? In terms of expansion. So we were really pleased that Swansea have been able to secure some additional funding for this project. I think one of the lessons learnt, if you like, from the Digital Solutions Fund is that 6 months is a very short time frame to get something up and running, especially in digital when you're changing approaches massively from old ways of working to new ways of working. And it's almost like the first 6 months have been proof of concept, maybe, Catherine. And what we're hoping to move on to now is we have been capturing metrics and KPIs out of the project. However, what we're able to do in this additional funding period is really spend some time to make sure we can look at the benefits realisation of what this new approach means for Swansea and potentially for other health boards across Wales. In terms of where this goes next, obviously Swansea are continuing that approach at the moment. The Life Sciences Hub Wales are staying involved. Catherine hasn't kicked me out just yet. And we're looking to support them to look at how this business case for Swansea might also be of interest to other health boards across Wales. So we are working really closely with the Welsh Wound Innovation Centre because it's really when we spoke to them at the outset of this project, one of the biggest challenges on wound management is data and getting data on wounds. Now, the spend on wounds in the NHS is one of the 3rd highest spends across all the different sectors behind, obviously diabetes a bit above, but diabetes and wound obviously have some very strong links. So one of the things we've been looking at is there value in looking at this nationally and tying it into all the other work that does sit alongside wound management in terms of procurement of dressings, type of dressings. And the other element that we would like to think about in the future is how technology like this can be built into best practice pathways. The lower leg wound, the lower leg ulcer, I'm trying to remember the pathway now that they're working on at the moment at the national level, Catherine. I always get the wording wrong. It's the lower leg ulcer prevention. Yeah,
lower limb ulcer prevention
pathway. How those pathways can be built into technology like this. So one, that we ensure that pathways are followed. 2, it's a great staff training tool. So it's not only a digital record management, it becomes part of upskilling the workforce across the piece. One of the benefits that might come out of this is that you can start to look at skills management across the piece in terms of who is doing different elements of wound care. So I know the Swansea Bay District Nursing already have a mixture of healthcare assistants and band 6 and 7 nurses who are offering care. But what this is able to do is able to allow the healthcare assistants to go out and do a lot more of the wound management that historically they might not have been able to do. So that's part of the business case in terms of a mix, in terms of skills mix. Equally, that's true of changes in practice in wound clinic. So instead of it all being manned by a nurse, there's an opportunity for the first part of their visit to wound clinic for a patient is having their dressing removed, having the wound scanned by a healthcare assistant, and then they are passed over onto the specialist nurse for their care and treatment pathway. So it's starting to use time more efficiently across the piece in terms of skills mix. So very much now the next phase of the project, as Catherine said, is starting to quantify those benefits for Swansea. We're using the platform of Healthy.io, but it's not to say that Healthy.io is the only platform out there. On the market at the moment, it's the only one that doesn't require you to have an added camera attached to a smartphone or a device. Which is where they have significant advantage over their competitors at the moment. And one of the challenges when you're looking to scale and spread is obviously having specific equipment that you need to add on is going to be a major barrier to adoption. However, having said that, there's lots of other firms working on how this element of AI, in terms of, instead of keeping just digital photographs, you are using those digital photographs to actually create data, is massively coming up the agenda at the moment, and there are other firms working on improving their technology to be able to do this. And longer term, there is opportunity for patients to be able to self-scan wounds. So whereas we're talking about in the district nursing pilot, it's very much patients that are in need of, they're not able to self-manage their wounds, obviously, then they're generally housebound patients, Catherine, in terms of your patient base. There are opportunities longer term to think about how this type of technology could be used across different specialties. So whether or not that's, it's post-surgery management for patients that have been discharged. Equally, if you're talking about having outpatient clinics, remotely more done so, if you have this kind of wound data for where you have surgery wounds that are healing, patients would be able to self-report all their data in, so that that could be reviewed as a remote consult rather than having to come back into clinic for wound checking. And that could be expansive across lots of different areas. The main areas that we'd like to expand potentially in Swansea too are podiatry, and looking at that close relationship between podiatry and wounds and district nursing, and that information sharing would be massively helpful across the piece. The interoperability is something that we're very aware of. Obviously, this is a wound platform only at the moment. And one of the challenges within Swansea is that it's fair to say, Catherine, you don't have a digital system currently for how your data is being collated in district nursing. So this is helping to form some of that thinking as to how the whole of district nursing can be digitised, with wound being part of that. But the wound element is kind of dragging you further up the agenda, shall we say, in terms of getting you digitised, which has been brilliant in terms of giving a bit of a push in the right direction, shall we say, in terms of district nursing. Yes. But we just wanted to highlight, really, this is a case study where clinicians really at the front end have been able to look at digital innovation and transformation and lead on it themselves. This wasn't something that was imposed upon district nursing. It was something that they chose to take on and champion within their own area. I think Catherine will say that, she wasn't an expert beforehand in this. She's rapidly becoming one.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. Learning every day's a school day.
Exactly. But for digital transformation to happen on the scale we know it needs to across the NHS, we need frontline clinicians like Catherine and her team to really be enabled and upskilled and empowered to be able to take on projects. And I think that's one of the value that's come out of the DSF projects, is that ability for pilots to happen quickly. Well, I say quickly, this is 2020 that this first came up on the agenda, and we're now in 2022, but for the NHS that's fairly quickly. And that ability to test it in real life to see if there's value, of which Catherine obviously and her team have found there is, hence the continuation funding. We were very privileged to have the Minister come up and visit the team, Leonard Morgan, a couple of weeks ago with the Chief Nursing Officer for Wales. And one of the things we're looking at doing now at a national level is reviewing all of the different health boards and where we're at with digital wound management, and also where in light of the All Wales nursing record, where digital wound photography really needs to sit and be analysed for the future. So that's something we're looking at a national level at the moment with the Welsh Wound Innovation Centre, to look at how we could really utilise this type of technology in a better way, in an interoperable way across the NHS in the future. So if anybody has anybody that is of interest in that work in terms of your health boards, we'd be really keen to connect with you. We're obviously reaching out direct at the moment through the district nursing teams and the TVN services. But obviously wound is something that does affect lots of different clinical specialties across the piece, so it can become quite an expansive area to work in. And if there's any more questions, or if you'd like any more details from myself or Catherine, we'd be more than happy to run through that with you.
Thank you both. That was fantastic presentation, actually, and I'd be just really interested, Catherine, to understand from your perspective, how easy was it to get the buy-in across the health board and to really sort of encourage and inspire your teams to come along on the journey?
So, as Rebecca said, within the NHS, it's always a little bit of a lag, isn't there? Like within anything you want to implement. But I think persistence paid off, really. And in terms of the teams, it's challenging, I think, is the word to describe that. We had some areas which flew, and then we had other areas which we're still sort of encouraging to undertake. I think we can split them up really into 4 different areas. We've got one team which everybody is scanning. We've got another team who recently, the team leader there has had to take control and really focus on it. So it's buy-in from leadership, really, leadership within the teams, and then the other teams then are sort of plodding along type thing. What we're hoping though is with the extension of the pilot and including all district nurses and all wound clinics, that it'll be far easier to control. Even though there's more people doing it, I think it's going to be far easier to control. I have asked the other areas if they're happy for me to lead on it, so that the same information, I'm sending the same information to everybody all the time, and constantly. Rebecca supports us with a weekly champions meeting, which is fantastic. Healthy IO attend. Sometimes we have quite a few people attending. They come with issues that they might have, any problems they need resolving. But that's really good. Just trying to keep that engagement up all the time, the communication, trying to keep them engaged is the key.
Fantastic. And the one piece that we hadn't probably talked about as much in the presentation is just the patients, and what difference is it really making to these patients? And I'm suspecting that some of these wounds will be with them for quite some time, and will be having a day-to-day effect on them. So is it helping with the speed up their recuperation, and is it maybe reducing some of the visits that are necessary?
Yeah, so a lot of it is to do with the patient well-being. Evidence shows that if patients have a positive attitude, then their wound does heal quicker. The app we're able to show the patients the images. Sometimes they can't even see where their wound is, so they've seen their wound for the first time. And being able to show them improvements over each visit, because these improvements can be minute, so the patient doesn't really see any benefits. We as nurses go in going, yeah, it's getting better, and families as well, they get really anxious that things aren't progressing. But if we can show them, then this is giving them a boost, really, and they feel more engaged in their care. So there's no better. That is how we care plan is meant to be, with the patient, with their contribution as well, and they're feeling more engaged with this.
Brilliant, thank you. Can I bring Mark in? Sorry, Mark, you've been very patient there with your hand up while I was indulging with questions.
No worries at all, and thanks Kerry-Ann, and thanks to Catherine and Rebecca there. So for those that don't know me, because this is my first AI SIG that I've been able to get to, and apologies for that as well. I'm Mark Briggs. I'm Assistant Director for Innovation within Cardiff and Vale University Health Board. I just want to say that I've just been blown away by what I've seen over the past few minutes. Fantastic work, brilliant, well done, and I'm very embarrassed and sorry to say I didn't know it was ongoing as well. But I had loads of questions, some of which that you've touched upon already, and I don't want to hog the scene, but the primary ones really are there already any connections into the Cardiff and Vale team? And if so, could you let me know who those people are so I can connect with them? Or if not, maybe I could try and start to be a conduit on that. And another point, more sort of like a technical side, it seems like you're getting great results with what you've got, but you also talked about the simplicity of just being able to use a single device and not being dependent on, say, an additional camera. I just wondered if there may be other sort of in-field measurements that you could make that might add to the value of the data collected and help to plan that pathway. I've no idea what they are, but could you measure something else? It might be, I don't know, maybe it's like the pH of the wound or certain, how wet it is. I'm not quite sure how to describe it, but I just wondered if you could start to combine other elements that put together like a richer picture of this, but it's all centralized into one place. Or at the moment you're saying, well, no, let's just keep with the image approach and take it from there.
So the information in regards to exudate level, so how wet the wound is, that is incorporated into the assessment, but that's the clinical judgment of the clinician that's there at the time. So the app obviously gives the dimensions and the makeup of the tissue distribution. They are looking into, because currently now we have to do the depth manually and add that in manually. However, they are looking at a way of incorporating that in as well. So I guess it's ideal in that it's the app has given us some information, but yet we're still needing, which we always do, the clinical judgment and the clinical assessment from the clinician that's actually at point there with the patient.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine you're always going to have that. I was even wondering whether or not, say, there was an infection, you could do sort of a point of care test to identify what that infection is. We've seen a lot of point of care tests come through with the recent pandemic, but the base technology would probably apply to this area as well. Anyway, I'd love to have a conversation about this generally.
And on that, Mark, there are people from Cardiff and Vale. I'll link up now and drop you an email after this meeting. I think they've had an initial meeting with Healthy.io, this company in particular. And interestingly, Cardiff and Vale District Nursing actually had a wound audit with the Welsh Wound Innovation Centre at the end of last year. So as a health board, Cardiff and Vale are one that collect digital imagery currently already within district nursing. However, because there isn't that further analysis of those photos, or those photos aren't necessarily being used, they found that the adherence of the nursing service to take photos at every visit wasn't necessarily happening unless there was a problem.
Yeah.
And that's great, but then when you have a problem, you haven't got any of that history of that wound necessarily there because it wasn't seen as a priority at that point in time.
Yeah, well that's great. Well, maybe offline, Rebecca, if you could connect me and let's see. But I think it'd be great to have some conversations around this. I think there's so much opportunity, and thank you. And apologies it's taken me so long to come and join the group.
No, glad you're here, Mark. That sounds like a really positive action to take away. So thank you for that. Farouk, could I ask you to come in, please?
Thank you, Kerry. Morning, everyone. My name is Farouk. I'm working for Improvement Kumtaf Mognov, and I'm a lead facilitator in the team. Basically, we are working on a patient safety collaborative, and we are looking at the community-occurred pressure ulcers. And we just had a couple of meetings, and we are thinking about digital solutions. And coming to this meeting, what Catherine and Rebecca just showed is so amazing. Like that's kind of a solution we were looking for. So my question is, like, with the app you have, does it scan and can be helpful for pressure ulcers, and especially with the categories using the artificial intelligence?
So I think because it's unable at the moment to measure depth of wound, then it can't. We do use it for pressure ulcers to document and record and record the improvement. But what we've got within the assessment is, one of the main questions is this a pressure ulcer? What category is this? So it doesn't determine the category or anything for us, but it is within the assessment as part, as I said previously, of our clinical judgment and what we deem this to be. We're hoping, yes, that this will somehow help us with our pressure ulcers within Swansea Bay. I know we were talking to our DATEX team in how is there a way we can pull out information in regard to for our scrutiny panels and our health board scrutiny panels in regards to this. But again, we need to remember this is a wound app and not and not specifically for pressure ulcers, but who's to say that it, it couldn't be developed further once you can measure depths of wounds. You'd still need, obviously, the clinical judgment in relation to whether there's bone exposed, whether muscle exposure to categorise these pressure ulcers. But, it could give us data that we're able to pull to improve our pressure ulcer management, really.
Thanks, Catherine. And another question related to GDPR, like we are taking pictures of like patient wounds and how it is stored because it is an external app. And did you had any difficulties with your digital team to actually get this app, and were there any challenges?
We didn't. Rebecca, would you like to expand a little more with this area?
It's an interesting one, actually, because the company we're working with are finding that some of the trusts in England are coming on board using this because it's actually improving the situation in terms of how photograph images are being stored at a health board level. I think even Swansea will admit that sometimes the way that photograph images, although it's all done by email in terms of data security, how they're then stored is maybe something that was needed to be improved. And within the app, because obviously there is a DPIA completely as part of this process, and the digital team there were completely happy with the way that the data is stored and encrypted. So there were no issues or concerns from that side in terms of, in fact, it was an improvement on the current practice rather than any concerns to the contrary.
Thank you. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you all. I'm not seeing anybody else wanting to come in with questions, though such a fascinating topic. And Catherine, just thank you for picking up the mantle and sort of really becoming an ambassador for change across the health board. And I think there'll be some follow-up conversations with colleagues around Wales to try and understand the processes you've gone through, and actually a real opportunity to replicate rather than look at building something separate from scratch. So thank you for that. Thank you very much. Now, we had on our agenda a second speaker today from Think Sono. However, we've unfortunately received last-minute apologies. So we don't have another speaker with us today. So in the usual way that we have been doing with our AI special interest groups, I'll just pause for a second just to see if anybody on the call has got any project updates that they would like to share with the group. I know I am putting you on the spot because we didn't ask for this in the suggested agenda. No. Rebecca or maybe Alan, I see on the call. Any updates in terms of activity that you guys have ongoing, or Alan, any extra push that you need to make for the AI online group, given that we've got some new members join us on the session today?
Goodness, you put me on the spot as well, Carrie-Anne. Thank you very much.
So no, well, that was great, but actually it was Aline I was speaking to then, but I will very happily come back to you, Alan.
Thanks, Carrie-Anne. Yeah, no real push, just a reminder that the AI SIG platform is available for everybody to use and share their ideas. If I think most people here have signed up to it, but if not, I'll leave a link in the chat so people can sign up from there and start commenting on other people's ideas.
I'm on mute, sorry. Thanks, Aline. Thank you. Alan, did you want to take a moment just to introduce yourself and say hi to the group as
That's very kind. Absolutely. I'd love to do that. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Fascinating discussion. Really interesting this morning. My name's Alan Deacon. I'm the National Pathology Portfolio Lead. I just come into my role 2 weeks ago, so I've managed to survive 2 weeks and 1 day, and I'm still here. I've got a particular interest in AI from the point of view of cellular pathology and the support that it can provide from the diagnostic point of view. And I think this group will be absolutely fascinating going forward, really, to understand kind of what's going on in the rest of healthcare, the potential opportunities for us all to link together. So yeah, really, really interesting. Thank you for the invite, Carrie-Anne.
No, lovely to have you. Thanks very much, Alan. Thank you. And Gareth, hi, good to see you. How are things going in ophthalmology?
Okay, I'll take my hand on a second. That's okay. Yeah, we started last year doing some work on where we're taking data from the forum screen system. So those people wear glasses will understand this. If you're over age 40, what I would direct line link with somebody that's glaucoma, as a parent in a sense, you will at any age have a free glaucoma test. You put your head into a machine which actually measures your peripheral sight. So glaucoma affects the sight from the sides and then coming downwards. So as a patient, you won't notice it. So if you saw 5 milk bottles, for example, in a line, as your progression of glaucoma gets worse, so they'll actually come inwards. So you see 3.5 milk bottles, or come down to see, you'll see 5, but only half bottles. So people tend to move their head because they can see the 5. So that's what happens, okay? So it's a silent disease in a sense. So the output of that machine allows what's called a dB value, and it's funny enough, I just put a bid into Welsh Government to actually produce the Intelligent Glaucoma Clinic, actually. So I share my screen a second. The diagram's not completed yet, okay? But I'll just show the screen because I'm actually doing it now for a presentation on glaucoma in the Royal College next Thursday in Glasgow. So I share this screen a second, but it's not perfect yet, the screen, okay?
Okay, Gareth.
Okay, so this is a HFMA machine. This is where you put your head in here. I can see my screen, yes.
Mm-hmm.
It pushes it to forum, and this is the type of output you then get because it takes that data and it creates this report here, okay, yes?
Mm-hmm.
We're now pushing that data into OpenEyes, which is the national program, yes, yeah? So all these trend values, we can do a trend analysis on, okay? So there'll be a diagram going to go in by here in a second, which actually just shows the deterioration, okay? We then mapping that then to here. I bring this here, yes. So if I make this a bit bigger in a sense, now I'll make it easier to see it. Okay. So what we're looking at doing now, if I make it bigger again, I'll hide all that part there, okay? So let me just delete these couple of lines out the way a sec. Okay. What the next phase then, of course, is to do is, let's lose that. I'll just delete it. Delete all these afterwards. So what then it does, it takes the last reading of the patient, yes, and creates a dB value, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So here's the dB values, and this, as you can see, this is good eyes, this is very good eyes, this is very bad eyes, okay? So it then takes that last reading, and what it does, when you register onto the machine, it takes your date of birth, your CRN number, not an NHS number, because everyone seems to be still using those, although we're trying to do a data cleanse. So we go through a data cleanse with the data at the moment now on forum, we can't be able to test this. We'll push it into OpenEyes then, and we'll create then this bar chart, this histogram here. By clicking on this, for example, this is a -20 value, yes, we'll then see a scatter graph on a hedgehog. People call it 2 different names, I call it scatter graph, so I call it hedgehog. And that actually allows us to plot then this reading here, okay? So the quicker this line down here is going on, yes, because this age here, this is value, okay? The quicker that's happening there, the quicker losing their sight. So as we're coming out of COVID now, we've been testing this and it worked pretty well. So we've had to do a data cleanse and make sure our data is correct. What we're now doing is we're now going to connect that data to the IOP value. That's their pressures, okay, yes, yeah. The reason we want to do that next is that we can then, because we've got a number of years of pressure, of 10 years of patient's pressure, okay, we then link the pressures to the histogram, okay, yes, with the data analysis tool, and then work out the value of that, which means then we can correct what we're going to try to call the intelligent glaucoma clinic, yes. That means then those patients who had a stable movement here, yes, yes, and a stable IOP value against those, okay, so we can see the regression difference between the two values, okay, yes, makes sense, yes. We can then decide to move them, keep them in hospital here, or move them to a practice in Wales. That's what we're working on.
Fantastic. So you're able to utilise this to move and to chart the patient pathway to the most appropriate setting. Yeah, fantastic.
So anyone from Welsh Government who's listening, please don't listen, because I'm about to put a bid in for an analyst to actually carry the work for me. So it's just what I'm working on right now for a bid, okay?
Yeah, I'm just looking. I'm not sure we've got anybody from Welsh Government specifically, Gareth. So that's. I'm
not really worried about Henrik's. I'll put it in any rate. We're working with Carl Zeiss as well on this as well. AI has got to be the way forward. We already did some AI work last year by sending data to New Zealand for an SBRI1 bid. We didn't do a very good presentation, to tell the truth. We made a mistake and gave a technician and an engineer to actually do a presentation. Doesn't work. So we're continuing the work we're doing with AI at the moment.
Brilliant.
We're doing one with HEQ. There's not one in the world done. So we've now created, since the last time we spoke, Carrie-Anne, we created the NHS Wales University Eye Care Centre. The Heath Hospital just wasn't capable of meet the demand of patient throughput, so we created that.
Yeah. So
NHS Wales is now going to screen patients with HCQ, hydrocholine quinine, and we're looking with two consultants now creating, and the university, of a screening tool for that. So there's not one in the world yet. And seeing them going to Cardiff, we got about 9,000 of those patients in Wales. It seems a good time to actually think about it.
Fantastic. And I'm just wondering, Gareth, whether you've put any questions or information about some of the work that you're bringing forward onto the portal site that Alan was talking about earlier, because that could be an opportunity just to get some engagement across the group, because it sounds like there's quite a few live projects that you're working on at the minute, and there may be an opportunity just for some data sharing, or in fact for others to learn from your experiences, if you were happy to share.
Yeah, Mark will no doubt chase me up to do that next week.
Brilliant.
As Mark is grinning. And there's a message from a Sarah Taylor. Gareth, I'll be happy to support with a bid review if of interest. I know who Sarah it is. Do you want to say hello, Sarah?
Yeah, so Sarah, do you want to just say hello? So she leads on funding for us, the Life Sciences Hub. Okay. And is absolutely the best person to help if you were interested in having a sort of an independent review.
Okay, I've done that bid this morning at 6 o'clock. I'll send it to Sarah. It was only that later this morning I had a call from the supplier Open Eyes, and they've been asked to do a presentation at the Royal College on glaucoma next week. Yes, so I've built in a presentation. I'll just finish off. This is an example. If I share the screen again a second.
Well, maybe Gareth, if you were able just to take that offline with Sarah, that would be really helpful. And okay. And then if we could use the portal, if there was data you were happy to share with the group, then that would be fantastic. Fantastic.
Just to finish off, that's the type of data that comes back to the system. Okay, so.
Brilliant, thank you.
I'll get over now.
Fabulous, thank you. Sorry and apologies, guys. You can probably all hear my dog running around barking like mad. So apologies for that. So that brings us to the end of the session. today. So actually, it was probably a good thing that we had an apology from one of the speakers. We've managed to utilise all of the time with some fascinating examples. So thank you all very much. We'll see you again next month, and use the portal and reach out if you have any queries associated with any of your projects. Thanks very much, guys.